And we are live. Welcome, everybody. We are Gotcha Thrones, part of whatever we consider Three Fifths Podcast to be. Uh, Network, a channel, a
I'm about to say
movement.
F word
Yeah.
movement.
Yes. Yeah, because that always ends well for every rap group that says they're a movement. But we are Gotcha Thrones, me at AYRYK and at Carmilla Lusta. Every Monday at this time, we review the latest episode of Game of Thrones. This week's episode is Kill the Boy. Let's go through the quick housekeeping stuff. Obviously, if you're watching us right now, you're watching us on YouTube or on our website, threefifthspodcast.com. That's 3THREE, fifths, FIFS, podcast.com. You can follow us on Twitter on at the number 3/5 podcast. You can also obviously follow us at our individual Twitter handles. The hashtag for this podcast is hashtag Got Your Thrones. You can also find us on Stitcher. The show should be up shortly after we end this. It'll be up on the Stitcher radio page for 3/5 podcast. It should be 3 spelled out. I think that is all of our housekeeping. Subscribe to the channel, like our videos, leave us a 5-star review on Stitcher, and we will read it. If I don't like it, I will make Justin read it on the main show because it was his idea, so he gets to do those ones. But if I do like it, then I'll read it here. If it is about this podcast, if it's about the other one, then we'll read it there. Simple how that works. But since we were running a bit late, and I think that's everything we need to go over there, let's get into this episode. Overall, CC, what did you think of the episode in broad strokes? The first one from Brian Cogman this year.
I thought it was really good. I think he could have done the ending a little bit better as a suspense part, because when Tyrion was getting drowned, he should have just cut it off there, which would have caused panic and fury throughout the kingdom, which I personally love. So I think they could have cut it off a little bit quicker than they did.
This episode went a little bit longer than some of the other ones. I think with the intro feature and the exit feature stuff on the website, it was hour and 4 minutes. I want to say they're usually a little shorter than that. That may be about the same range. So,
this episode was 53 minutes, I think, and usually it's 48 minutes.
Okay, yeah. So, and they've been a little shorter this year, so that's actually probably is one of the longer ones this season. As I said before, this episode was the first one this year written by Brian Cogman. Like we kind of went over the last podcast. He's written a few notable episodes, including Baelor, as probably kind of the major one, the episode where Ned Stark gets beheaded. So when we found out that he was going to be doing this episode, we knew that some stuff was going to happen. Some interesting things were going to take place. So overall, I liked the episode too. There were a few areas that felt maybe a little clunky. I agree that I would have loved it if he had just cut it off with Tyrion almost drowning and just left everybody wondering for a week. Though he did get to do the stone skin reveal for Ser Jorah at the end there, that he's been infected with Game of Thrones Ebola and
AIDS.
Game of Thrones AIDS. I don't know if I think it's more Ebola. Not to mention, I feel like we'll get in more trouble for referring to it as AIDS. I'd like to keep this podcast going.
Oops.
So when you have, as one of the reviews I was reading kind of talked about, when you have that scene of the stone skin reveal in your back pocket, then you're willing to mess with people a bit more. Hence that fade to black and just holding it there with Tyrion. Because I got an ace in my pocket and Ser Jorah got infected. So they were able to kind of do some interesting stuff with the ending there for that. I felt like some of the stuff that we're going to get into with like Dany towards the end felt a little clunky. That's probably partially my bias having read the books, but it does seem to come a little bit out of nowhere. And I mean, I get the whole conversation she has and all that, but like I said, we'll get into that later. But starting off, we're going to go through this one in order because I had a chance to take notes while rewatching this episode. So we're going to go through this one in the order that they happen. Though this one was still very segmented. We spend a lot of time in the north between the wall and the Boltons and then back to the wall. And Brienne, there's a whole lot that takes place in just the north in this episode where we kind of get the north and then the other continent. Mm-hmm. So that should also tell us probably next episode is going to focus heavily on King's Landing as well as Dorne, since we didn't see any of those this episode or any of Arya. So those will probably be the focuses of the next episode. But getting into it, we start off in Marine with a shot of Grey Worm laying motionless on a bed. I could tell from the very first part that he was still breathing, and I assumed the director wouldn't be that bad. So we find out that Grey Worm is still alive. I believe you have a phone going off. So we find out Grey Worm still lives, and Sir Barristan the Bold did not make it. But I know we discussed on this that there was only really a question of whether or not Grey Worm was going to live. Barristan, it seemed like he died, and then our preview for this episode was him laying on a stone slab. So,
R.I.P. Barristan the Bold.
Our homie Barry. Then Dario comes in and recommends that they become the SS. Like, look, let's just round everybody up. Kill off all the masters, sweep through the whole city, driving out anyone we have to. Like, whoa. You want to put them on trains next, Dario? What's going on here, man? You calm down.
Hey, work for the Nazis. Sort of.
Did it though? I don't think that worked out for them. That's
sort of
why. Yeah, that's how you get moved.
Well, they were fine until Japan decided to screw with the U.S., and that's when things started getting bad.
That really didn't help them. And also, never get involved in a land war in Russia in the winter.
They believe winter is coming.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. That's going to be Dany's problem. She's going to build all of this up, and then she's going to go start a land war in the winter. And winter is coming. You know what Russian winters did to troops? What they always do to troops. They stopped them dead in their tracks. So, but that's the future. We're talking about the here and now. So Dany calls to have all of the masters rounded up, which is when we finally get to see a lot of the ones who have survived, the heads of the houses, which is when we get to see when a lot of them survived and realize that Hisdar seems to be the only one of darker hue in this set.
He's our token master.
Pretty much. Though that apparently works out for him in the end. As we know, Dany apparently likes him with a bit of a tan.
Yeah.
So Dany apparently finally remembers that she has dragons and they spit fire and eat things. So she takes all the masters down to remind them, oh yeah, I have these dragons and they're here to fuck shit up and eat people. So she throws one to the flames and he gets eaten. She threatens all the other ones and they have this great moment with her hand on Hisdar's back about to like try to push him forward. And she tells him, you know, and he replies to her, Valar Morghulis. And you can see her face crack, where she's like, "Whoa, wait, this didn't work exactly how I wanted to." And you see her double back on what she's doing, and I don't want to overfeed them, and then lets them all go. Which means pretending he wasn't afraid to die basically saved Hisdar's life.
I was like, finally, you remember you had two freaking big dragons the size of an SUV? Actually larger than an SUV now. Downstairs in the cage. So you finally are putting them to use.
Yeah. So very limited use still.
But it's a start because she has not been using them at all.
Yeah, no, she's been really weak and wishy-washy the last few episodes. So it was also nice to see her actually do something.
Also because now, see, Barristan was kind of like her, the little angel that tells you, don't do this, it's wrong. Because he had seen how crazy her father was and he didn't want Danny to be the same way. So now that he's gone and he can't be her little angel, she got her little devil on her shoulder, aka Dario in some cases. She's saying, girl, you are a Targaryen. Time to start acting like one.
Yeah. So, but obviously there's comes some risk with that because, going too far into that whole I'm a Targaryen, kill everything with fire is what's gotten a few of her relatives in trouble over the years. So, the other part is that Barristan did provide a good tempering for it. It may be that she just swung too far in one direction. So then we go to the wall where we have Sam reading to Maester Aemon about his last living relative, Daenerys, and what she's doing in Marine, which is a nice little touch. And you get to kind of hear him talk about how sad he is that she is alone in the world and not able to have any other Targaryens to counsel her or help her with what she's doing. So we got to get that touch. But then we see Jon Snow comes in and talks to Maester Aemon before going to get Giant's Bane. And one of the things I written a note here was that I don't know if I've ever seen or heard anyone say Lord Commander with less respect than Tormund Giant's Bane does to Jon, asking him what he would have him do. But Tormund kind of goes through and explains, like, I'm not going to kneel to you, and neither will the rest of my people. And it's easy for you to call me a coward while I'm chained up. To which Jon replies by undoing his chains and basically telling him, look, you bad, do something. And Tormund then agrees to talk to his people about bringing them back safely, though he requires Jon to go with him if he's going to be able to convince them that this isn't just a trick or a trap. And Jon has to decide if it's worth it. So,
and then also when Jon brings us to the Night's Watch, they're all like, they kind of killed a lot of our people, it's basically, I kind of want to say it's kind of like the Japanese and the Chinese in a way, because the Chinese are like, you guys kind of screwed everything up with the rape of Nanking and everything. Japan's like, don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, it's in some ways bigger than that, because it's, the wildlings have come in and raided and pillaged and all of this, but their response is also, you've killed all kinds of us. You've burnt and raided our villages in response. Like, as it kind of notes, it's been 8,000 years of back and forth to where no one necessarily really remembers who started it, but they do know that we've been killing each other for 8,000 years.
So basically Germany and Russia during the Second World War then.
Yeah. Or Germany and
more
France.
So. Yeah, France has always been a little weakling.
Yeah. So, and also if you go into some of the history DVDs and little clips and stuff that they've done, they also go into some of the stuff where the wildlings have come over the wall before to help the Northmen.
I've read that before.
White Walkers were loose. Yes. When the White Walkers came the last time, the wildlings came over the wall, helped defeat the White Walkers, and then were promptly told to get back on their side of the wall. So there's also things like that have caused them to build up huge amounts of animosity, which is also why I'm almost certain now Ali is going to poison Jon's food. Like, kill the boy should have had two meanings. Kill the boy as in grow up and be a man, but also off Ollie because he is going to poison your food. He's going to kill you. They killed his parents and then told him they were going to eat them. Do not keep this kid around, John.
Please, you little idiot. Yeah, but they are definitely, it's just like Germany invaded Russia. Stalin invaded Germany, so nobody knows. So, and they were like, Germany's like, you kind of did all this stuff, and Russia, like, you guys started it.
Yeah, and so you get all of that. Yeah. And then we jump to Pod and Brienne. Pod tries to convince Brienne that Sansa's going to be okay with the Boltons. Brienne isn't buying it, so she tries a somewhat new approach by approaching someone who looks like they've been in Winterfell and surrounding area for a while and telling him, I'm here to serve Lady Sansa. I made a pledge to her mother. You know, if you can pass the message along. And so she tries a little subtler tactic this time than she's been used to using, which I think we can assume might be some of Podrick's influence and what he's learned from Tyrion.
Mm-hmm. Brienne's finally starting to be smarter a little bit, I'm hoping. Because they're like, because the North, like if they've been saying all season, the North remembers. The North remembers.
Yeah. And so, which is also handy because this is a place where Brienne's brand of loyalty is more accepted and understood as opposed to like an area like King's Landing where everyone just kind of goes with whoever's in charge. She's in an area where her type of unflagging, you know, honor can be successful.
Versus King's Landing where you pay me. No, okay, I don't give a crap.
Yeah. So we stay in the north where Ramsay is trying to put one of his hoes back in line. I think I tweeted out at this point that Ramsay is a pimp in the most literal and horrific sense of the word. Some of his great lines in this, I'm going to, like, Miranda, the girl he's talking to, says, like, I saw you staring at her or looking at her. Like, I'm going to marry her. That will involve looking at her from time to time. Mm-hmm. And when she calls him out for saying he was going to marry her, like, I can't do what I want anymore. I'm furthering a dynasty. She threatens to marry somebody else. You're the kennel master's daughter. Who are you going to marry? The stable keeper's son.
In other words, he's Stevie J. Either you on my bus or you're off.
Yes. Though he also points out that because his one of the last lines is, you remember what happens to people who bore me. Like when he tells her, no, not only are you still mine, but if you don't quit this jealousy in front of me, I'm going to get bored. And you know what I do to people who bore me. I will flay you alive. And so what ensues is possibly one of the palest sex scenes on cable television.
Boniest.
Boniest too. She doesn't seem to be enjoying it at all. She doesn't look very happy.
Her cervix was showing. That's how bad it was.
Yeah. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. But we were also right that from the look of the scene, we did think it was Miranda that they were showing having sex with Ramsay, not Sansa. Though they do kind of flash it by rather quickly. I assume to keep you a little off balance as to which it was. Mm-hmm. So, but thankfully, a handy dandy DVR didn't fail us.
So. Now, Sansa, speaking of Sansa, they had, what's the girl named Miranda?
Yes.
Miranda was talking to Sansa like, oh, you know, your mom's here, yada, yada. Your mom's, you know, still lives on, yada, yada, yada. And we all know this heifer has gone through, chased someone through the woods with a damn dog.
Yes. To jump back
Like a
just a little bit,
runaway slave.
Sansa. Yeah. To jump back a little bit, Sansa runs into Miranda when she's staring at the broken tower that she's been told if she ever needs help to put a candle in the top of it and, someone will
Mm-hmm.
help her. And so she goes to look at the tower where she runs into Miranda. I did like the showing the tower again just because it is also a nice callback to episode 1 because that is the same tower Bran gets pushed out the window of.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, she runs into Sansa, Miranda, who likes to hunt people for fun, and you're just screaming in your head, "Don't trust her! Don't trust her!"
And trust her. And then you're like, Miranda, like, oh, by the way, why don't you come down here? Something you need to see. And then the girl opens the kettle. I'm like, Sansa, you dumb bitch. We know what she likes to do with her dogs.
Yet.
We know what this heifer does with dogs. I thought she was about to let the dogs loose on Sansa.
No,
because she was gonna let them out, lock the door, and be like, I don't know how she didn't get out.
I didn't think it was going to be that just because of how much trouble Miranda would get in with Ramsay and Roose for that happening. Like, she can't attack Sansa that directly because even if she wasn't responsible, the Boltons are the type of people to flay her and her dad just because it happened.
Well, you know how these side chicks in Westeros are. They don't care.
It's true. These hoes ain't loyal. They don't know what it's like to be down for the team. Look, you're a silent partner. Silent.
Real hoes move in silence. These Westeros hoes, no.
True. So Sansa actually walks back in there anyway against all reason and common sense and discovers that Theon is not only still alive, but still alive in the kennels. Though she doesn't know Theon didn't actually kill her brothers as we do. She still thinks that Theon killed Bran and Rickon. So we then cut to Theon helping Ramsay get dressed. Ramsay talks some shit, but realizes that Theon is trying to hide something from him because as bad as Ramsay can be at reading people, he's good at reading Reek in part because he spent so much time tearing Reek down and then building him back up. So he can read people when he applies himself. He just doesn't apply himself that much. So, and you get this moment where he admits that Sansa saw him, and you said, like, my first thought when I saw this was he has to know Miranda did this. Like, he cannot be confused as to how Reek got found in the kennels by Sansa unless Miranda was somehow involved. And so we think he's about to punish Reek for something he didn't even control. And instead he, pats him on the hand and tells him he forgives him. My thought of this was really just that Ramsay understands how far he can push people mentally. And knows that he can't push Theon so far that he breaks again because then Theon will leave or tell the truth or something like that. And he can't have that happen. So he needs to show him some kindness to get that kind of good Stockholm syndrome baked in there.
Yep. Because when you're dealing with your puppets, you have to play them just right on the strings because you pull them too hard, they break.
Yes, and so he doesn't want to break Theon. He just wants him on the edge of breaking as often as possible.
But I honestly, sometimes I don't know who is worse, Joffrey or Ramsay, because Joffrey was just an overall prick, but Ramsay was actually entertained. But I know what it is. The people Ramsay did stuff to wasn't like Joffrey. Joffrey was hurting, innocent people, and of course with Ned Stark, Ramsey, he filleted Theon after they thought he killed those two farmer boys. So it was just like, Theon had it coming. Can't really be too mad at Ramsey, but he is a great master manipulator.
Yes. And I mean, you have to keep in mind that Ramsey also told the guys at Moat Kalen that he was going to give them peace and then flayed all of them. He went to collect taxes, and when they wouldn't pay, he flayed the husband and wife and made the child watch before demanding taxes again. That Ramsey is a very particular kind of crazy, and he's somewhat manages it. He realizes that he can't just run around being completely crazy all the time, but he does use it to throw people off balance and manipulate people. Whereas Joffrey had been told he could do whatever he whenever he wanted, and so he would hurt people for fun, but he had no discretion. He had and very little focus, which is why he was so easily led by Marjorie. Whereas Ramsey, the danger in him is not only how he hides his crazy, but the fact that he understands manipulation as well. So someone like Marjorie could not come in and curtail or focus him because he knows what they're doing. Whereas Joffrey was just oblivious to most of what was happening around him, hence him being poisoned.
So does that make Ramsey Dexter?
Maybe. Lord Dexter of the North. All right. But then we get the Bolton family dinner. Ramsey stands up and makes a toast. May our happiness spread from Moat Kalen to the last hearth. Moat Kalen obviously being how they got into the North. It's the kind of main defense point. You have to hold it in order to enter or exit the North easily or comfortably. And then the last hearth is basically like one of the furthest North settlements before you get to the wall. So that's kind of his comment there. And then Ramsey's new mother makes the comment to Sansa that, it must be tough being in a strange place. She's like, this isn't a strange place. This is my home. It's the people who are strange.
Shade.
Yes, epic shade. But then Ramsey kind of takes it in stride. You're right. Very strange. And then he reuses the North remembers when he brings in Theon and, discusses the fact that he killed her brothers, glossing over to a degree the fact that her brother and mother are dead because of his family, but Theon needs to apologize to her. Theon then gives the weakest apology ever, though I'm willing to forgive it because he didn't actually kill her brothers anyway. So how good of an apology are you supposed to give? I saw a few people that doesn't make us even. That's a terrible apology. And I'm just like, he didn't kill her brothers. The apology he owes is to some random farmer, not
exactly.
Her brothers are still alive north of the wall, hanging out with the Green Seer.
And some other stuff, who knows?
Oh, yeah, another one's off on an island or hidden off somewhere. But yeah, they're doing all that kind of stuff. Though he has that great moment where he's like, that was getting tense. Woo. And Ramsey really endeared himself to me during these moments where you just see him in his full, manic mode where he thinks he's in control of everything, including telling her that Reek should give her away at the wedding.
And then Daddy Bolton has to step in and be like, wait a minute.
Yeah, let me take you down a few pegs because Ramsey, Roose had that moment of just you're feeling yourself a little too much, kid. Let me remind you who's really in charge here. Did I tell you Walder's pregnant? We think it's a boy. And the look, they show that shot of Ramsey just downing wine, and in the background you can see the so pleased look on Sansa's face as she's looking over it. It's just a great shot that the director gets right there.
Oh, well then. That I would not want to go to the Boldens for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, no, that's a terrible dinner. I mean, the ending wasn't so bad for Sansa, but still, it's kind of like, would you want to sit through the rest of that just so you can have a one moment?
Hell no.
Yeah. So, um, we then cut to the Boltons again, this time in Roos's study. Roos is kind of, trying, not really trying that hard to talk Ramsay down. Ramsay is clearly still angry about the conversation at dinner about them potentially having a son, especially because he wants to know what his position is going to be. This doesn't get covered as much in the show, but Ramsay's own conversation kind of clearly suggests that even though he's been legitimized, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be the one to inherit, especially if Roos, is tired of his antics. And so he's very legitimately concerned about what is his position going to be in the family moving forward. And
it's the what are we conversation.
Yes, and then we get the worst family pep talk ever. I'd just like to compare and contrast it with the Baratheon family pep talk we got before about, I wanted you to be happy. I bought you this doll. You looked so cute. It turned out it was from someone trying to kill us all. I blame myself. You deserve more. You're my daughter. I wasn't going to send you to live with the stone men. Versus the Bolton family pep talk. I raped your mom under the tree that her husband was swinging from because they married without giving me first night rights. She fought me the whole time. Then she showed up later with you, and I was about to have her whipped and you thrown in the river. But then I looked at you and I saw what I see now. You're my son. So your mom's still dead, but I took you in.
And here we are.
Yes, the North is ours, yours and mine. Help me stop Stannis. That was the pep talk, and that worked, which tells you how messed up this family is.
Dang, Bolton. Rose just basically told you crazy, but I invented crazy. That's all I heard from that.
Yes, you are a crazy rape baby, but you're my crazy rape baby.
That's all. He's
good talk, Dad.
The Boltons gonna be the most. I thought the Lannisters were bad. The Boltons are worse.
Yeah, they make the family where the siblings are having sex and the youngest one killed the dad look fairly normal. You're like, look, I mean, if I had to choose whose house to go over to for Thanksgiving, you know what? I might go to Lannister Thanksgiving. I know they'll have wine, right, Cersei?
And a nice shade fest.
Yeah. So you got that going for you. We stay in the North still. I mean, we did a lot of scenes that just took place in the North. With Gilly and Sam talking about Old Town and being a maester and libraries, because Gilly doesn't have a lot of experience of the wider world. She also isn't necessarily the brightest, and Sam's pep talks aren't really helping. She kind of gets to beat a hasty retreat when Stannis arrives to basically ask Sam, how in the world did you kill a White Walker, fatty? Look, I knew your dad. He was a fighter. He gave my brother the only loss he'd had during the War of the Usurper / Robert's Rebellion. You don't look like a fighter. How did you kill a White Walker? And he explains to him, well, it was dragon glass, and I'm trying to figure out why it works. That's why I'm in here studying. And Stannis basically tells him, keep studying, Sam, because we're going to have to fight an army of the dead. But I need to go become king, so me and my family are heading out.
Peace. Have a nice day.
Yes. We get that moment where Selyse is coming over to talk to Sir Davos, and we're just like, oh my goodness, not Mama Baratheon again. Like, She's terrible, and no one likes her. I'm pretty sure
Worse,
even Melisandre is getting tired of her at this point.
like she makes Cersei look like mom of the year.
Yeah, you make Cersei look like a better mother. She's just awful. And if there's anyone who I feel like I'm hoping gets killed in this raid, I feel like it's her. Like if we could get rid of her, that would be all right. Because I think her daughter would do better without her as a mother.
I agree. And then husband already screwing the red priestess, so
Yeah, like look, here's your new mommy, the Red Witch.
who was actually
Uh,
nice to her.
yeah, she's much nicer to her, so that's handy. Though it may be because she wants her blood, so we don't know there.
That's true.
Melisandre gives Jon Snow the "you could have had some of this" look before they leave. And Jon Snow's kind of like, I dodged some real crazy there.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, guys, try not to stick your dick in crazy. I know it seems exciting and enticing at the time, but don't do it. Don't do it.
Say no to ratchet fire pussy. Say no.
Just say no. Like drugs. All right. So then we jump down to Marine. Grey Worm shows Grey Worm basically uses the greatest line ever to land a woman right here. Like you are guaranteed to hit. If she likes you at all, you are guaranteed to hit with this line. No, as I laid there thinking I was going to die, I was afraid, but not of dying. It was of not seeing you again. Boom, that's it. You win. You win all the draws. All the draws are yours. It doesn't matter who it is. If they like you, male, female, animal, Lannister, Targaryen, dragon, you win them. That's it. It's like cheat codes.
Cheat codes. Like, you ain't got no penis and you still got the girl. You really MVP.
Yes. No dick, no balls, and I still got the girl from a hospital bed. What did you do today? And I killed like 10 of those dudes.
By myself.
Yeah. What did you do today, huh?
Well,
nothing. That's what. Also, he finds out that Sir Barry is dead, which we're all sad about. We loved you, Sir Barristan. Never forget.
P.O.P. hold it down.
Yeah. So then we cut to Danny and Missandei having a conversation. We assume after a healthy makeout session with Grey Worm, maybe some heavy petting. She goes to talk to Danny because she still has a day job. And Danny has to get her magic Negro pep talk. We've come to that moment. She needs to figure out what to do. And one of the key ways to do that is to have your magical Negro friend give you a talk about responsibility and making decisions, which will instantly lead to you knowing how to handle this rough decision. And it's exactly what she does. Because she says Sir Barristan, till the moment he died, to counsel mercy. Dario says I should kill off all the masters and let the rest sort itself out. And so the magical Negro pep talk gives Danny the answers she needs, which is what the magical Negro pep talk always does. Remember, you ever have a tough decision, just find your closest black friend and ask them about what you should do. Your wisest, closest black friend. Because you don't want the one who's just going to tell you to go in there and punch someone out. You want the one who's not going to tell you what to do. They're just going to give you like a riddle or a parable. If you know any wizened old black men, start there. And then
some old black woman.
Yes, old black man, old black woman. And then work your way down in age as you go till you find someone who just tells you a story about stuff you did and gives you a parable and then tells you you'll know what to do. Because that is the magical pep talk that you need that will lead to you basically conquering whatever it is in front of you. At least that's my understanding from basically every movie ever.
Just ask the Matrix.
The Matrix, Bagger Vance, the Batman movies.
The list goes on and on. Winter
Arguably
Soldier.
parts of Captain America, Winter
Yep.
Soldier, at least one or two of the Iron
Iron.
Man movies. Uh,
Thor's the only. Thor's the only one Avenger that
nope,
didn't have a magical Negro.
Idris Elba.
Oh,
Thor
of
goes and
course,
talks to
Animal.
him, and no, Idris Elba
Animal.
is. Yeah, no, everyone gets their own magical Negro to tell them how to
Yep.
overcome their problems. And so Danny has to go to hers, and she sees the better choice shortly after there with no other explanation. And as much as I love Brian Cogman and the episodes he's done, he walked right into this trope, right into it. So she goes down, tells Hizdar, I was wrong. I'm going to open the pits. I'm going to free you, and I'm going to marry you. So we not only got Black Love, but we got IR Love in one episode of Game of Thrones, which I feel like is an accomplishment in and of itself. Well, love may be strong for Hizdar and Danny, but still, it happened.
Sell more Black Love than the first 3 seasons of Scandal.
Yeah. That's a commentary on Scandal more than it is Game of Thrones, but still. And Hizdar, while he's down there, yes, he's over there groveling. Like, I didn't, like, Danny, of course, has to hit him a couple times. You're talking all that cash shit about, Valar Morghulis. What happened to that? It's like, look, I didn't want to die a coward. Apparently, I don't want to die at all. Like, look, lady, I didn't want to die looking like a punk. But if I have an option, I'd like to live.
He went from Samuel Jackson to Cuban Gooding Jr., basically.
Real quick. She basically says slavery will never return to Marine, not while I live. That's a somewhat dangerous statement because, as we know in Game of Thrones, you cannot live very quickly. So she should probably maybe just say slavery is never going to return here over connecting it to your being alive, because these people would gladly kill you in many cases. Also, at the very end, Hizdar, you win the goodies. We've been having the big goodies contest for a while now. Who's going to get them? Will Daario get to keep them? And at the end of this scene, we find out that Hizdar has won the new round of the goodies championships, and he will be the one receiving them. Danny apparently likes them a bit tan. I mean, we had Jason Momoa, Khal Drogo before. We have Hizdar now. Even dirtbag Daario looks like he would turn a little brown in the sun.
Daario looks like he might be the typical Italian.
Yeah, so, and as much as everyone might like to talk about, a lot of mixing went on that Mediterranean Sea. A whole lot of sailors. So, but Hizdar randomly wins the championship. This was one of the parts to me that felt really clunky, if you can't tell, that we just go from, I don't know what to do, to, all right, I'm going to come down here, I'm going to open up the pits, and I'm going to marry you. I can understand her deciding to open up the pits. They've been setting that up for a while. There is no setup for her to marry Hizdar. No real explanation as to why that would even come to her mind, other than, well, you'll see a solution that no one else will. For all the book readers, I know that happens in the books, but it gets set up a lot more. There's a lot more connected to it than in the show. The show just kind of randomly springs this on everybody, as opposed to kind of taking the time to build it up the way the books do, which they even could have just had every time he begs for her to open the fighting pits, that he also proposes, to the beautiful queen of Marine, blah, 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 blah. And it at least would have made some sense. I mean, I get that she's trying to talk about it'll connect her more to the people of Marine, but she's also marrying one of the masters. Like, she's not marrying a slave or like a free man who was, well respected by both. She's basically opening up the pits where the slaves used to be forced to fight, and then marrying someone of the upper crust. Like, you're marrying someone who the people who used to love you hate. who's part of the group of the people who hate you, this doesn't seem like the best plan.
It's basically like an abolitionist marrying a slave master after the
Yes.
Civil War was over.
In a bid to cause healing of, after the Civil War, I'm going to marry someone who was a slave owner so that we can really bond everyone together. It does, saying it doesn't make sense now, it certainly doesn't make sense the way they set it up in the show. So that felt just clunky to me, the way they kind of just have that random turnaround.
I am not a book reader. Well, I kind of just started the first book today, but even I thought I was very clunky because I was just confused, like, wait, huh?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the thing is just, it gives everyone that shock, which is the thing that, helps keep these kinds of shows going, is the idea that you don't know what's going to happen. Everyone's live tweeting, that, oh my goodness moment that everyone tweets about. So I get how it keeps everyone invested and keeps things moving. And I realize that if they were going to stick, so close to the books that it has to happen, I just would have liked it to be set up more delicately than they did it, because it just seems kind of random the way they unfold it. So, but that's probably my biggest complaint about this entire episode. And now we kind of come back to what we talked about in the beginning. Tyrion and Jorah are on a boat, and Jorah's apparently not feeling that talkative since Tyrion has woken up. And Tyrion realizes they're going to the ruins of Old Valyria. Old Valyria, obviously, is where we've heard it referenced a few times for other reasons, but it's where the Valyrian Empire used to be kind of centered at, and is now abandoned by everyone except for the Stonemen. And it's, rumored to be infested with demons and all this other different stuff. And Tyrion kind of asks Jorah if he's scared of it, and Jorah's like, no, but pirates and smugglers and slavers and all of that are afraid of it, so it'll be safer for us to go through. We also get Tyrion quoting from poems and such, and then as they're going through, we get to see these great shots of their architecture being overrun. We get to see kind of these great monuments that have been built. And, Tyrion kind of commenting, they were the best at almost everything. And Sir Jorah finishes, and then they weren't. Like, they used to be the best, and then nothing.
As someone on Twitter mentioned, why haven't these people learned? Just give Tyrion his wine if you don't want him talking.
Yes, I did see those tweets.
That's the best way to shut Tyrion up. If he's an alcoholic, you give him his wine, he won't whine.
Yes. Feed the addiction. But then we also get a shot of Drogon flying over the ruins. Just this great moment of the last dragon, the last free dragon of the world, flying over the last empire built on dragons. And right after he passes, we see behind Tyrion this fuzzy shot of a stone man standing up and dropping into the water. This great parallel of what used to make this empire great, dragons like Drogon, and then returning to what it has become, a place where the crazed, infested, disease-infested stone men are the only things that live there now. And so then they both get attacked. Both of them lie, because we know Tyrion, at least his booted foot got grabbed by the stone men and pulled him down, though we don't have any evidence that he was actually scratched or touched by them. And then Jorah, we see clearly at the end, had been touched by the stone men and has already begun to show signs of the disease. So he is beginning to show signs, and that's how we end the episode. After a little bit of a scare that it's going to end with Tyrion drowning, we see that no, he lived, but Sir Jorah is on a timer now because the Essos HIV is going to get him.
So it's just HIV.
Yes, that's
But
apparently what we're going with.
But I personally thought what they should have done, they should have just ended it with Tyrion drowning, and then with Drawer. Now the intro when we see Tyrion waking up. Now when we see Tyrion waking up, like you're okay, and then Jordan seeing like the grayscale on his arm, that would have made a good opening for the next episode.
Yeah, it would have been a pretty good opening. I think. From what I've looked at of the preview, I don't know if I want to read this one because it feels a bit more spoilery than some of the other ones. The next episode was written by Brian Cogman as well and directed by the same director, named Unbent, Unbroken, Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken. It is the house words of House Martell of Dorne. So we are fairly assured of getting a good amount of House Dorne this upcoming episode. But from the preview, from the kind of preview blurb, I would suspect it was a matter of how much they had to cover, that they needed to fit so much into these next episodes that they just didn't want to take out time to put in dealing with Ser Jorah's grayscale. Because, I mean, you still got to deal with Jaime and Bronn, you got to deal with the Sand Snakes, you got to deal with Littlefinger getting back to King's Landing, and we didn't see any Arya either this episode, so you have to service all of those storylines. There also may not have just been enough room for, adding in the moment with Ser Jorah, especially if they weren't going to be able to come back to it.
Now, what I also noticed in the preview, Grandma Martell is going to be back next week.
Yes, we get Grandma Martell back and we get Littlefinger back. It'll be interesting to see. I think I tweeted out, it'll be interesting to see if Littlefinger can contain the fuckery Cersei has unleashed, because this stands in direct opposition to his major business in King's Landing, which is the brothel. And they've been going around tearing his stuff up, and he hasn't been there to kind of put it back in check. Obviously, the Tyrells also want to put the Faith Militant down because they are currently holding Lady Olenna's grandson, Marjorie's brother, captive. Not to mention, they also seem to be aligning themselves against the king and in Tommen because of the growing belief, the correct belief as we know, but growing belief that he is the product of incest. So...
which is going to come back to haunt Cersei later, because obviously she's his mother.
Yes, between the incest as well as the fact that she also slept with Lancel, her cousin, who is one of the Faith Militant. Cersei might not be in the best position here either. So it'll be interesting to see if they can contain the Faith Militant, and if not, who they take down next. Is it going to be, Littlefinger going to be their next target? Are they going to continue after the Tyrells as a favor to Cersei, or are they going to start to look at Tommen and Cersei as, the next potential people to take down? So it'll be interesting to see where that storyline ends up as well.
It will be, especially considering they only are loyal to their religion. They are not loyal to the crown. So I think that's going to kind of throw Cersei for a loop, because she's used to manipulating people, because it's like, okay, this person knows I'm a Lannister, so they know not to cross me. Or this person knows I'm the queen, and, at the time, the king is my husband or my son. So it's like she knows basically who to mess around with. This guy, they're like, you're a Lannister, you're the queen, I don't give a crap.
Yeah, and we don't know, and we don't even know, like, the performance that we've gotten from the High Sparrow. We don't know where his loyalties really lie. Like, is he actively helping Cersei, or is he just kind of using her? Is he fully in control of the Faith Militant? Like, was he really in there praying and told the Faith Militant not to let anyone bother him? Or are the Faith Militant just running out of control, and even he doesn't control what it is, that they are doing from day to day? Like, how much power does the High Sparrow even have over everything that's happening? Or is it someone else in the Faith Militant that's controlling everything?
Basically, they're ISIS. You don't know who's in charge, really.
Yeah, we don't have a solid idea of who's in charge, what their organization is, if they can be controlled or contained. They're just running amok, doing whatever, and Cersei has empowered and emboldened them to the potential danger of everybody.
Mm-hmm. And all this happened because Cersei was vain.
Yep.
And didn't want to be replaced.
Marjorie was talking cash shit, and she didn't want to go back to Casterly Rock. Partly out of fear for Tommen. She didn't want Tommen killed, but also she didn't want to lose her power and control over the country, and she didn't want to give it up. And so now we have this, which will potentially kill her kid.
Mm-hmm. Because everybody knows when you try to change faith, you just help it along.
Never try to stop the prophecy. You always fulfill it. Mm-hmm. So, but this has been our podcast. We have, I feel, sufficiently recapped the show. I also have a dinner date tonight. Yes, so I need to start getting out of here because it begins somewhat shortly. So, but CC, I had a lot of fun. Again, as you know, I love the fact that we can do these recaps. It's something I've really wanted to do. So I appreciate you also making the time in your schedule to help me out with these.
No problem. I'm going to collapse because I drove 4 hours.
Yes, you do that. I'll go through it really quickly one more time. You can find us at 3fifspodcast.com. That's fifths, FIFS. You can also find us here on YouTube under the channel 3fifths Podcast. Like us, subscribe to us, all that good stuff. Also, you can find us on Stitcher Radio. If you search 3fifths Podcast, leave a 5-star review on our channel, and we will read it on the air. Specify if you can, whether it's for Gotcha Thrones or for the 3fifths Podcast live show. Either way, we will review them on the appropriate show, unless I really don't like it, in which case I'll make Justin read it on the main show because it was his idea to start these, so he gets to do it. You can also follow us on Twitter at the number 3fifths Podcast. You can also follow us individually on Twitter at Carmelo Lusta and at AYRRYK. It's been fun, and I will see you next week.
Bye.